When does passion turn into obsession? And when does fantasy turn to delusions? I don't know either, but today we might find out. Don't worry, you haven't filmed that yet. Huh? You haven't done that yet. That's like 4 hours from now after you dye your hair. Who are you? I'm you from like 20 minutes ago. I don't know why you don't remember. You're the one that wanted to be more delusional. They've already clicked away. We're here doing this silly little skit, and we've already lost viewers. They're gone. They clicked because they wanted to see the jacket, and they're gone. So I'm gonna take over, and I'm gonna continue from here on out. You just sit over there and do whatever it is that you're doing. You watching the Red Lights music video again? Again? The process of starting this whole thing began when I watched the Stray Kids video for Red Lights. In it, they're wearing a sort of wraparound tie jacket, which has also transferred over to some of their stage costuming, and I really like it. The idea came to me to make this jacket to wear to their upcoming concert, and also to try something that my friend does, which is make costumes inspired by things one is interested in. I knew that this jacket would be somewhat of a challenge for me, and it would also be a creative outlet to kind of get this idea I have in my head that I'm obsessing over and just put it all into a project, which is, I don't think something that I've actually done before, surprisingly. Unless you count that time that I made like beanies for like 2 weeks straight, non-stop, just crocheting hats. That's a different story. The next step was to look for a video tutorial on how to make this jacket, specifically Bangchan's, because it had a very interesting back detail you can see right here. But I can only find one video, this one by George Hollins, which did help with planning and thinking about how I might make it. But George is far more skilled than I am, having studied and worked in fashion design, and so I was a little intimidated, but it was a good starting point because it was a customization of an existing jacket, which was my initial plan. Unfortunately, all the jackets at Goodwill had too many pockets on the front, and trying to work around those was going to be too complicated, and so I knew I had to make it from scratch. In the end, I had to draft or Franken pattern the jacket, and I tried looking for other video tutorials on wrap jackets, but the only useful takeaway I had was how much fabric I needed. Without a pattern, it was time to do research, which was just taking screenshots while I watched the video over and over and over and over, which was kind of a waste of time because high quality images were just a Google search away. However, I did end up learning the lyrics to the song, so maybe it wasn't such a waste, maybe? It wasn't a waste at all. I love the video. From there, I traced over the images to kind of get a general idea of the shapes that made up the jacket, to see if I had any patterns that would match those shapes. Fortunately, I had a vest and an oversized dress shirt pattern, and so the only things that I had to draft myself were the collar and the ties. And I just reworked the pieces of the vest to get the main body the way I wanted it to look. The initial mock-up went way better than I expected. I just needed to make a few adjustments, but I did have to redraft the entire collar, which is very tricky. I still don't think I did it right. I'm sure I didn't do it right, but it works, so it's done, we're good. I made a second mock-up, and at that point I realized I was in over my head. Like, the collar was kicking my ass, and it continued to kick my ass all the way up until the end of the project, and I still don't think I understand collars even after finishing it. In the end, I just put everything away for a few days and came back to it, ready to cut fabric. Working with the outer fabric went great. I was able to adjust my seam allowances and add markings without any trouble, and I even sewed most of it in the same day. However, the lining was satin, and an absolute villain. I just had to pick something that would feel nice against my skin, or that would go on easier if I wore other clothes underneath it. I was out of my damn mind. But it worked out enough in the end. I also failed to take into account that satins generally hold on to body odor very well. So I have to use like alcohol to clean it, and maybe sew like little pads into the armpits, and or just manufacture some sort of undershirt so that I still smell okay-ish by the end of the concert or the next time I wear it. Like I don't know why I didn't think about that. After I had most of the body constructed, it was time to make the wraps, and I did make one major error when drafting them, and that was I didn't take into account that the collar would need to be sewn into the side seams. Like I knew that I needed to do that because that's what all the pictures did, and that's what I had planned to do, but once I got them all together and ready to sew on is when I realized it, and so yet again the collar was kicking my ass. However, I did do what I had been doing with the collar the entire time and just went, I'll deal with that later with hand sewing, and it worked out okay-ish, and you can only really tell if you're absolutely looking for it. It looks like an intentional design piece because that's what it is, I guess, because that's what I did. I just left it for the end. It was intentional. I forgot that I was on a deadline through most of this project and finished with 6 days before the concert. I had given myself like 15 days to do this, essentially just 2 weeks to work on this project, and I'm really surprised that I was able to pull it off because behind the jacket is a pile of unfinished projects that I have not finished or that I am not going to start anytime soon. So here's the finished jacket. Hopefully after watching this, you might be inspired to also make something for yourself. Just remember, if I can do it, you can do it. Remember that. So as I say goodbye, I would like to say, stay. I would be so happy to meet you, and I will see you in Atlanta. Bye.
Put you with this hand, put you with this hand. More pets. Make more pets with a guy. Look at him.
My legs are so slimy.